Hi there, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast, conversations designed for the conscious community to bring awareness to those holistic practices that help us live our best life. So tap into the wisdom and knowledge of our guests to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. I am absolutely honored today to have with us the gorgeous Lauren of Love, who's coming to us all the way from Connecticut. Welcome, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
You're so welcome. I found Lauren through synchronicities on the wonderful Instagram and straight away was drawn to her profile and just started looking at everything. And I'm like, oh, this person is amazing. I need to have her on the podcast to share her story with all of you. So, Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners and what it is that makes your heart sing?
Oh, yeah, I love that question because singing is actually something that's very close to my heart. But yes, hi, I'm Lauren of Love. I am a self-healing teacher and guide for women who are on personal healing journeys. I mainly focus my work on women who are healing chronic illness and mental health focused conditions. I think this world there are so many of us that are struggling, whether that's with depression, anxiety, undiagnosed or diagnosed chronic health issues. And on top of all of that, deep layers of worthiness and self confidence tend to be the main focus of the work I do in the world. And it really makes my heart sing. Yeah. In addition, I'm a plant medicine facilitator. I work with a lot of different plant medicines, and I'm just a big advocate of giving women the power back to heal themselves of whatever it is that they're moving
Yes.
through in their life.
So good. I'm getting goosebumps all down my back. It's so beautiful to be the guide to enable people to be empowered enough to make the choice of themselves and to transition through whatever it is that has put them in the place that they're in. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Amazing. Oh, there's a little dog.
Yeah, it's silly.
So you weren't always doing this work that you're doing. What was your journey sort of to get to that beautiful offering that you've got today?
Yeah, so my story is pretty crazy. I think everybody's story is crazy. When you go on like your healing and spiritual path, I'm sure you feel that same way where like what you're doing now years ago you probably never imagined doing. I was a television news producer actually for CBS News Network,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, that was like my I worked so hard to have this career job, like I climbed the corporate ladder, went to journalism school, paid my dues. It was a really intense journey to get this very prestigious position in corporate life, but I was not actually happy. I was really carrying a lot of unworthiness and a lot of emotional discomfort and just not living in true alignment with my heart space because I was doing it for my family to be impressive, to have this
Mm.
job and this successful career. So when I walked away from that, I started a company called What is Perfection and focused on personal development tools for women. And then slowly over time, I evolved into building a brand that helped women build successful businesses. And that was really where the peak of my entrepreneurship path bloomed. And I realized that so many women had, financial challenges and resistance to money
Like
manifestation. And
blocking their
that
own
was,
wealth.
yeah, blocking their own wealth. It's a very deep pattern for women. And through my study of doing this work now for 8 years as a spiritual teacher, guide, mentor, I find that to be one of the biggest 3D obstacles for women is that they don't know how to be a magnet for money. So it still continues to be a big part of my work, but my deep, deep healing path that shifted me into the spiritual work I do now bloomed during that time where I was trying to be successful in my entrepreneur career and work the milestones and hit the goals. And it was again kind of the same thing of corporate life. Like, this isn't really what is supposed to make you happy. There's so much beyond life than the dollar. So, yeah, so that's kind of how I got here today to do what I do.
Yeah, I love it. And that's that realization that a lot of people don't get until it's too late when their body is screaming at them saying, listen to me, stop, 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 because they're thinking, thinking, thinking. So was there something within your body that was screaming at you?
Yeah. So, little bit of like some background. I built my business, my entrepreneur business to a very, very successful, quote unquote, status. We had a team of 5 and we were really making a true impact with these very big group programs.
Mm.
But at the time, I still felt like making $80,000 a month was not enough. And I was continuing to feel that pressure to chase and to achieve and to reach more milestones. But I think for a lot of people who are on achievement journeys, women tend to put their own personal needs behind the needs of what they believe to be the business, right?
Yeah.
And so I had been really shutting off my own needs to have a regulated nervous system, to be peaceful. And I was binge eating to cope with stress, drinking alcohol to calm my nervous system down. And I was developing some serious chronic health issues at the time because I was living out of alignment. It was almost like spirit was like, hey, you want all the success and you can, but you're doing it with the wrong intention. You're doing it because you don't feel worthy. You need to figure out how to feel worthy.
Mm.
And that was when I made the decision to step away from that path, even though it was this big, beautiful, prosperous thing, to really do the deep, deep inner work, to go on, a year-long spiritual study, just isolating from corporate, from my entrepreneur career and just doing the deep inner work. So yeah, it was my body, it was chronic illness, fatigue, exhaustion, joint aches, like all of the things that so many women who I work with now experience.
Yeah, wow. And cool, it would have been such a powerful year, hard at the start, but when you start to get that traction or feel your body sort of coming into alignment and really loving yourself, it would be all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I look at the impact that I get to have on the world today and the work that I get to do. That all came because I actually stopped and put myself first. And
Yeah.
I think that we're really afraid to do that because we quantify our worthiness by how successful we can be and what milestones we can achieve. But at the end of the day, if you're chasing those things to feel good about yourself, you're trying to build a castle on a foundation that's just not there. So I think it's like it's so important to remind ourselves that it's not what you're doing and what you're creating, but it's the intention behind it. And now when I achieve and have business milestones, it's not from a place of seeking validation or recognition. It's from a place of like, wow, I love myself. And this is a reflection of that. This is what's being birthed as a byproduct of my
Mm.
own inner balance.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just so important to feel that way.
How beautiful, how beautiful. This is the focus for me right now, is reeling all the fishing lines back in and coming back to the self, because I have been doing what you're talking of and just putting myself everywhere and sacrificing myself. So this is such a powerful podcast for me.
Mm,
And I feel as well, when you can deepen your own journey and container, you can hold space so much better. So if you're in the healing space, and you're out there, a coach, a guide, whatever you are, and you're trying to serve from that empty cup, there's nothing there.
no, no.
So
Mm-mm. And
your
it's also
clients aren't even going to get the depth that you could possibly offer.
it's true. I think it's also important to recognize as well that like as a space holder and as a facilitator, when you're not doing the inner work to heal your own traumas and your own wounds, every amount of space you hold is more exhausting because you're going to get triggered and you're going to get mirrored to you the aspects of yourself. So like in the beginning, just as an example, like I would work with clients. This I've been in this business now for 8 years, but in the beginning, when I wasn't doing my inner work and I hadn't gone on the journey that I've been able to walk today, a client would come to me and I would hear this very loud voice in my head around all of my own stuff. I would be like, oh my God, like I'm not doing a good job. I'm not asking the right questions. And then
Mhm.
the things that the client would share would be actually like wounds of things that I've experienced myself. And then that would spiral into even more needing to do my inner work. And so it's like, it's just really important to be very clean and aligned in how you
Mm.
hold space. And I think when we aren't doing our inner work because we're so wrapped up in the achievement of it all, it takes even more of an amount of energy to hold space for others. And it actually is kind of exhausting to do it that way. Now I can be very clean in my heart space and not indulge and like have good solid boundaries because I
Mm.
know that I'm enough. And yeah, I love being able to give that to my students and my programs, that worthiness and wholeness in themselves.
And you love doing it and you love being in that space, and it just you shine even brighter than you would have before. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if people are interested in finding out more about the work that you do or anything like that, we're going to have your links and everything down in the blurb. But if you would like to share some wisdom about this line of work and why people should possibly get curious about it, we would love to hear.
Mm. Yeah, so a little bit about my path of like facilitation and coaching and teaching. I really, for a long time, I've been in this world for a while, like I said. So in the early days, I studied deeply with Tony Robbins and got to travel with him for a year while I like deeply immersed myself in his teachings and practices. And I found there was this sort of shadow to coaching and facilitation where the coach or the guide, whoever you were paying, was the guru. And it
Mm.
was like you paid thousands of dollars for this golden ticket to like be in the energy of somebody. And it was so prestigious. And oh my God, I'm working with them, and
Mm.
like that can be a really beautiful opportunity to expand yourself to believe that you are worthy of being in that space. But ultimately, I believe that space holding and facilitation is really about giving the person the opportunity to find their own power and to show them how powerful they truly
Mm.
are, right? Like just sitting with you, like I could feel your energy. You're so
Mm.
powerful.
Mm.
And healing is not about a healer doing work on a patient. It's about giving that patient, that student, the opportunity to heal themselves,
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so important, and that's a very big shadow of the industry that
Yeah.
actually plays on a lot of women's trauma and like feeds into even more destructive
Yeah.
behavior, right? It's like almost like we're trauma reenacting,
Yeah, or puts
right?
them into like analysis paralysis where they're thinking, I need to do dit, 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 dit. It's like, well, you don't, you
Yes.
just need to sit in it.
Yes, exactly. A big part of healing is about feeling what it is that you're feeling and not trying to solve it, but rather embracing it and being present with it and knowing how to like move the energy of what's alive. You can't find the answer to that when you're in your mind trying to fix, it's really about being a witness to. And so, yeah, so anyway, along my journey of healing, I went through a really deep initiation with plant medicine, which is something I talk about a
Hmm.
lot. Ayahuasca, combo, bufo, these plant medicines and animal medicines that are very much here to help us heal. And that was the very big truth that every teacher shared with me almost repeatedly, was that these plants are not healing us. They are showing us that we are the healer,
Yeah,
right? And they're here to
they
give you
speak
your
to us
power.
if we listen.
Correct. Yeah. So I went through this very deep study. I actually, when I abandoned my old business, went to Sedona and lived there for a year in Arizona, which is like the spiritual vortex mecca in the United States. And I lived there for a year, just really deeply, humbly studying. And on the other side, I had healed the deepest layers of my trauma that I didn't even know were there, and built an entirely new business mission from the ground up where I teach people the healing modalities virtually without any
Mm.
plant medicine, how to be the healer of yourself.
Ooh,
And so I
yeah.
have, yeah, I know it's like one of those things you're just like, oh my gosh, it's so empowering. So I have two programs. I have the Heal program, which is a life transformation program that is 12 weeks of an immersion followed by 12 weeks of integration. And it is a step-by-step healing method that has allowed Oh my gosh, the most magical things, like women who've had addiction, who have healed, women who've been in poverty, who are now creating successful businesses, women who had abusive relationships, who've manifested soulmates. It's really a life
Mm.
transformation experience. And so there's that process. And then I also have the Wild Wealthy Feminine process, which is all about rewriting your relationship with entrepreneurship and building your business from a feminine frequency.
Mm.
So that's what's alive for me, but I also do a lot of in-person work, and I have a lot of digital entry level programs to help people at any space that they're in. Because I
Mm.
do believe another big piece of my mission is to help people know that healing is accessible at any dollar and that there's always a step you can take to grow
Yeah.
yourself, and sometimes in the coaching world, things are so um, inflated,
Yeah. Yeah. And they seem unattainable. And, you get the coach in the background saying, well, if you wanted it bad enough, you'd make it happen. It's like, oh, so
Yeah, and how abusive is that? You know what
so
I mean?
gross.
If I was in a relationship with a man and that man said that to me, that's total narcissism
Yeah.
abuse. Why is it okay for a coach who's selling themselves online to say something like
Mm.
that? I don't subscribe to that belief at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. What I really wanted to draw on out of what you just said was I love that you do the program, but then you've got the integration. I feel that is so missing in this world is that, here's your beautiful offering of education for the 12 weeks, but then I've got 12 weeks of integration because people do these courses and invest in themselves, but then they're in the container, then they're out of the container and they're like, oh, you know. So thank
Yeah.
you. That's great.
Of course, I felt that was a very big breakthrough for me when I was in my journey of plant medicine. A lot of teachers would say, 30% of the work you're doing is the ceremony,
Mm.
and 70% is the integration of these lessons when you go home. And to not have proper space held in an
Yeah.
integration container really is a make or break experience for many women.
Absolutely.
I think it is one of the most overlooked points of healing is that in any healing container, there's the healing experience and then there's the integration. And
Yeah.
we need to properly hold people in that process so that they can take what has been awakened and embody it. And that's really what integration is about.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a beautiful way to put it. I'm a breathwork facilitator, so I'm very big on integration because I know from experience that I've been in breathwork sessions where it's been massive and then we've gone and then there's just been like ripped open and nothing to sort of continue on with. So I know there's a lot of people out there that chase the spiritual high and they're like from this to this to this to this to this, but they're not actually integrating the beautiful offering that they gain from these sessions. They're just going to the next, to the next, to the next. So
Correct. Yeah, and we see that in the online space too, with people who just, buy program after program and study
yeah,
after study. And, at some point you have to really pause and say, like, I think to me, it's like you have to give these breakthroughs the respect and reverence of how potent they feel for you to say that you're going to take time to embody them. I just got back from Peru in November and I sat with a plant called Noyara, which is the tree of light, and it's this trauma healer, right? Yeah, it's one of the most intense experiences I have personally had on my healing journey. And I was told that the integration of that experience, which was a month, is going to be anywhere from 6 months to a year. And
mm,
so for the next 6 months to a year, I have to be aware of like what is coming up in my 3D as a metaphor, as a lesson, as an
mm,
invitation to apply and to see things differently. Yeah, it's so important. And that's why integration coaching is really a powerful tool
yeah,
and why my programs include that as a component all the time because it's so necessary.
absolutely. And thank you for drawing so much light on that. I know the people that listen to this podcast are the curious ones and they're the ones looking for what out there might work for them. So it's such a good message to talk into integration and to talk into sitting with things. So thank you. What a blessing.
Of
Is
course.
there any final words that you'd like to share with our listeners before we part ways?
No, I mean, I think it's just so important to like follow. I guess what's coming through and what feels alive for me is to live a life that you don't feel afraid to sing in, you know? I think it's like we all know that there are certain things in our life that would bring us more joy, that would make us more happy, that would bring us more empowerment. But we have a responsibility to like move beyond the fear of having those things or
Mm.
doing those things or being those things and just to give ourselves permission to feel safe in the joy of it all, you know, to embrace it. I think a lot of the pursuit of happiness takes a great deal of courage to let go of the things that don't serve us. So I really invite anybody who's listening to not be afraid to shed those layers and to know that following your heart is always safe.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. I think there's a rewind needed for people to just re-listen to that part just again. That was gold. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Lauren, for your time and space. And we maybe will have you back on here again sometime to go a little bit deeper. That
sure.
would be amazing.
I would love that, of course. Thank you so much.
No worries. Bye.